Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Streamed live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this beautiful morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. What up, baby? What up? What up?
Hey, it's a great day. It's a great day, Eric.
It is a great day, and you will notice a slight change. Tommy and I are going to be on our best behavior today. Because we got our wives here. Our wives are popular demand. The wives, the women in front of every good man, in front of him are two amazing women. And so you will see that at some point here shortly. But we're excited about that. But first, we're just going to talk about our week just a little bit. Tommy, how was your week?
Good week, Eric. Productive week. We were able to really reach out to a number of partners. I do want to just very quickly just shout out one of our partners, the Ohio Developmental Disabilities Council. There are these councils sprinkled throughout the United States in each state. And these are councils that care for our brethren that have developmental disabilities. Some of them are very severe, some of them are less severe. But it is a organization, Eric, that two things. I've learned a deeper understanding of empathy, compassion, and patience.
It's excellent, man.
Right?
Excellent.
That's one. Two, in the last week, I've learned how to provide different people differently.
Okay.
Meaning, we do survey instruments all the time.
Right.
We actually use a tool called SurveyMonkey. Put the survey together, send it out via email, maybe a QR code. And we sent it to the organization, our contact. They responded. It may be too complex for our readers. And I received that.
Right.
She then sent me a copy of what they call clear and plain language.
Oh, man.
And
Forward that to me too, man.
Yeah, after
awesome.
I studied it, it's like, oh my goodness. For years, I've been using a whole bunch of words.
Right. Judy will tell you that about me too.
Right. It made it plain.
Right.
So what we were saying in almost two sentences, we were now saying it in 6 or 7 words.
Okay.
Make it plain. I was like, you're taking my company, They're like, no, that's what it is. And so I had to learn how to speak more clearly, more plainly, get to the point, and to allow folks to share their voice. That was my greatest learning this week.
Okay.
And I was proud that I was able to, in some ways, kind of adapt. I'm still learning, but adapt. I think we grow and learn every day.
Yeah. I love that, Tommy. And that's what's exciting. I'll say this again. I may have said it last week, that one of the ways that they say as we get older, one of the buffers against Alzheimer is to continue learning. And so the fact that you and I love being lifelong learners is a powerful thing. And so I'm looking forward to that list. For me, had an exciting week. You and I are working diligently on the Urban League of Greater Southwest Ohio Inclusion Report. And so we had a lot of conversations about that. We have been working with a new client of ours, the Cincinnati Reds. And so we're doing some executive coaching and training with the Reds. And now we have been put on the list of executive coaches and trainers for Major League Baseball. So I'm really just excited about that, man. Grateful for the doors that God continues to open. And also I did a keynote address for the HR Collaborative. I spoke in Savannah at a conference. I spoke at a conference for SHRM, a national conference. And somebody was on the plane on our ride back, and they said, "Hey, weren't you Eric Ellis? Did you speak at the conference?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Cincinnati." They said, "Is that where you live?" "Hey, I'm from Cincinnati too."
Wow.
And so that sort of opened up a door for me to be a keynote speaker for the HR Collaborative. And I tell you, Tommy, One of the things that I love most is the sound of laughter.
Yeah.
And there's no richer sound for me than to hear the crowd bust out, just with uncontrollable laughter, because I think that laughter is the key to opening up people through their defensiveness, that they begin to bring down their defenses if you can make them laugh. And then, so I enjoyed that. I love talking to people in person. You and I have gotten very comfortable with the virtual world, but it's also just exciting to be able to speak to people in real life as well. So I'm excited about that. Tommy, we've got a couple of guests that are going to join us this morning. Right now, we're going to open up the door for Penny and Judy. So, Lydia, if you can bring them to the floor. Good morning, women. How are you? There you go. Excellent. How are you all this morning?
Doing well this morning.
Doing great.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to start with the first question. We are so excited to have you all. Your schedules are so busy like ours that we had to reschedule a couple of times, but we're grateful that you all have joined us today, because we've got people in our community from all over this country, and with Lydia around the world, that have been calling for the women that are in front of us to co-host. And so what I'd like you to do is really, as we start most of our guests, to really introduce yourself by talking about who you are, where you're from, and what are the sort of significant people or events that have brought you to who you are today. Who'd like to start?
I'll start. So I am a very passionate individual. When I put my claws in something and I take charge of it, I want to see it through to fruition. I'm also dedicated to caring for others. It's a lifelong quest for me. Tommy asked me several times, do you consider yourself successful? Hands down, absolutely. Each and every day that someone calls me and say, Penny, can you help me with this? Or can you help me write this letter? Can you help me figure out how to do this? My family call me Dr. Penny. I tell them, if you dial my number, you've dialed too many numbers. You should have dialed 911. But I am the go-to, such that to the effect that I went back to school to get my second master's in mental health counseling, because I was doing that, for everyone. I'd get calls all hours of the night from friends, family, wanting to, I don't know, for whatever reason, get my opinion on something. And one night I got an epiphany where my sister had called me and she said, you're always getting me off a cliff. You need to go back to school for that. And I was like, Tommy, what'd you think about this? Mm-hmm. And he said, do it. So I did. Because it fills me to help others. Mm-hmm. It fills me. So that's my success. That's my success. It's not qualified in dollars by any means. It's qualified in love and caring, compassion, empathy, sympathy. That fills me. It makes me feel good. So I used to work in the corporate world, and that just wasn't it wasn't for me.
Right.
Because I could not use this ability, this natural, it's a gift. Because, how do you meet strangers on the street and they just want to talk to you? They'd be like, I don't even know why I told you all that. I'm like, you had to get it off your chest. Mm-hmm. It's all right. You can talk. It's the weirdest thing to have that, where people just feel comfortable in my space. Mm-hmm. So I thought, let me go back to school, because like you said, learning for the rest of my life, I have to continue feeding this thing, because it wants to know everything and it wants to be of service to others. So how do you do that? Well, you attain knowledge so that you can be the conduit to give it out to other people. and I don't want to walk around wrong and saying the wrong thing or causing harm,
Mm.
so
I know somebody else like that.
I need to learn so
Mhm.
that I can then, impart knowledge or help or whatever. But I love family. I have a close-knit family that just, they drive me, they love me, and I love them back. We got that from our mother. She was like the nucleus, and she taught us how to love one another and be there for one another. I'm
Mm.
the oldest of 6.
Okay.
So now that my mom's gone, they look to me, and I take that charge in honor, so I have to keep growing. I do. Laughter, man, let's laugh. Let's laugh so hard. We need to go change our pants. Let's just have some fun. I love that. I love that. That's me in a nutshell.
Okay.
We have so
Awesome.
many layers, but
Mhm.
I could go all day.
I love that. I love that. Judy, why don't you go ahead and share your story? Thank you, Penny. That's awesome.
Well, I'm Judy Ellis, and I am a product of my upbringing from Gary, Indiana, the youngest of 3 in my family, with a gap of 10 years between my closest in age sister and my other sister and I, 12 years. And always loved people, always had a bubbly personality. And although I interact in big circles, I like to most operate in my small circles of my family and very close friends. I very much resonate with so much of what you said, Penny, because I'm really a studier of human behavior. I love human beings. I love God. And the intersection of those two things has really driven most of my life. I have always been very interested in doing whatever I can to make the most of the relationships that I have. And so have spent a lot of time in lay education on relationship skills, which I do bring to the corporate world. Interestingly, I didn't enter in that kind of study for that purpose. It was for ministry, but what I find is everywhere I go is a ministry field. And I believe God has placed me in corporate spaces to bring humanity and human connection back. And in my role in helping with cultural issues, diversity issues, I'm always finding a person that I connect with. My son was kind of rolling his eyes at me yesterday because I promised to talk and help him with something. And I was on with a colleague who scheduled 15 minutes with me, and we were on for an hour. A colleague in Monterey, actually, last night, who the conversation kind of shifted from the business thing into a coaching conversation because of some relational dynamic problems he's having. But that's the way I really get fueled, is by interacting and working with people. And it's been so interesting being in the virtual world because it has just opened up more and more people from around the world to be in my circle. And I count that a blessing because I love culture and learning about differences and exposing my children even by osmosis to that kind of thing. As I said, my youngest Ethan was sitting there first patiently, then impatiently while my colleague was talking with me. But afterwards, it opened up an opportunity for us to talk about some of those things. And that's the most meaningful part of my life, is really connecting one-on-one with people, with my children, adult children now as well. And I guess that's the nutshell of who I am.
Mhm.
And Tommy and I go back and forth. So Tommy asks you a couple of questions, and then you all can answer some questions later on if you want as well.
So as both of you shared that you are siblings, Judy, you're the youngest of 3. Penny's the oldest of 6. You're both mothers of multiple children. You're caregivers. You're intellectuals. You're insightful. And so I'm hearing, a holistic you, right? Mind, body, and soul. And as we talk about our topic today around kind of the difference between men and women, or you all are thinking, etc. My question is, when did you come into your current mindset? In other words, was it nurture when you were younger? You experienced something that really helped define your character and the way you think and view the world? Or has it been much more over kind of the arc of time where early teens, 20s, 30s, you're trying to find your way. And then at 40-ish said, okay, I know who I am and I know how I'm going to kind of think about the world. When and what influences your thinking?
Do you hear me?
Okay. I would say, I mean, it's a combination. I had a very close relationship with my father, who was a people person and kind of a bootleg philosopher. So he would often talk with me about people issues, the importance of every human being, not neglecting who we might consider the least of those in society, saying you never know, you can learn something from every person, you can help every person in some way. He interestingly had a belief that most people were good and that they wanted to help in some way. And if you could find a way to connect with people, that you could find valuable relationships that where you may not expect them. So that value of caring for people, as well as my mother, we had a very close family friend who was visually impaired. He was blind, and we used a lot of our time to care for him and a nonprofit that he started. So I know those influences along with my upbringing. I was raised Catholic. I'm Protestant now, but going to Catholic school K through 12, where the values of caring for other people were really instilled in me. It resonated with my personality. In my adult life, I would say being introduced to some classes, the first year of our marriage over almost 35 years ago, through Equipping Ministries, really made everything click, because it was kind of like I had a piece here, a piece there, but then I got this codified system of thinking about how do you have a healthy relationship with yourself, with God, and with other people. And it was like sometimes you're in a situation and you feel like this is what I needed to understand, or this makes it all come together. That was it for me. And I began to delve more and more into those kind of coursework in the psychological realm. And it's very practical in how do you have healthy conversations with people. How do you renew your own mind, which is like, how do you do kind of cognitive behavioral therapy on yourself? How do you examine your thoughts and beliefs, see where there are gaps? And then how do you bring that into the context through practicing so that it becomes a part of you? So those things really helped me. I always knew I was kind of a people person, but I didn't have any skills in that area. Eric says you're freestyling. It's like you're kind of freestyling, trying to figure it out. But having been introduced to that helped make it click and make it practical. And then I get practice like 24 hours a day, because I have created these human beings in my 4 children.
That's what I was talking about. That part right there.
Who come to me now my son's like, I found out I can ask ChatGPT a lot of things I ask you. I'm like, yes, please ask ChatGPT and then come to me for a backup. It really made, it was ludicrous and crazy. One of my sons, who was living in LA for almost 10 years, called me one time when he was working in property management, because he walked up on a tenant and they were passed out with a needle in their arm. And he called me like, Mom, oh my God, what should I do? And I'm sitting there like, what do you mean? How do you wait for the ambulance, or what can you do in the interim? You know, what did 911 tell you? I didn't call 911. Penny dialed too many digits. It's like, hang up with me. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, not Los Angeles. Call 911. They can come and help you right now more than I can. Like, I couldn't even believe he picked up the phone and called me instead of 911. But so I went a little overboard on the dependency side. So now I'm trying to pull back, but that's my current struggle.
Indeed. Oh.
So it's not odd. It's human that we have similar upbringings. Albeit I'm the oldest of 6. I want to say that where I first realized that I had what I needed to give to the world was when I was very young. I had the ability. My mom would say, Penny, we're going to get everybody around the table. I need you to help us talk to each other.
Oh,
I'm like 13, 14.
right.
I'm like,
Wow.
but what I was able to do was to have everyone listen to one another and not just be bickering, just listen. Now, my father was never at the table. My father was not, I don't know if my gifts are nurture or nature. And I want to say that it's nature because all of my siblings are the same way. We're all people. You know, we give. We just love people and we love caring for others. For me, I'm the only one that pursued higher education because I just wanted, again, to know how to do it in the world in such a way that I wouldn't hurt others, that my words wouldn't be come back and somehow bite them or bad advice, or I didn't want to ever do that. So education was important to me, is still. Tommy, I'm looking at the PhD program. But I grew up.
I've seen that for the first time here. A test prep, a trial balloon. That's nice.
And I receive it like this.
Yeah.
They're free.
Yeah. Well, I'm really supportive.
Only because there's so much to offer others. And there's so many people who are looking for someone who can give that to them in such a way that they can receive it. I love education because not to say that I'm so smart or because I'm not. I don't know anything. I love this map back here. We went to Italy. I'm nothing. I'm like this little blip, this little bitty teensy weensy. I know you can't even see me with a microscope in comparison to the world. And I'm just fascinated by that. I love diversity. I love difference because it expands my thinking. My only fear in life, I have one, is that I won't learn enough before I'm gone. I won't get enough. I won't know how to help someone else in some way if they came to me, because I don't know how. And to have people that I could call and say, can you help me figure this out? Or I love that. I don't know. I don't know.
I will say real quick, Eric, before we go to you, and thank you. One, with the PhD program, I'm excited for you, Penny. Obviously, I think that's.
I say I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're entertaining, you're researching it. The other is that with Penny in her pursuit of education, what I've learned is that she does have an insatiable appetite for knowledge. She attains the knowledge, and her pursuit of knowledge is different than mine. That's where we think differently. Wow. In other words, I get degrees or certifications or licensures to then turn that knowledge into revenue.
Yeah.
Right. So what I learned, I need to be able to get paid for.
Yes, sir.
Penny's different.
Uh-huh.
And I've struggled with that a little bit. Penny's like, I just want the knowledge. Wait a minute. What are you going to do with that? Well, I know now. Look, knowing's half the battle. That's what G.I. Joe said. And because I learned from G.I. Joe, now you have to do. And Penny said, I wasn't watching G.I. Joe.
Right.
The boys were watching G.I. Joe. I was a girl doing this. And so our exposure to information that's driving our thinking has fundamentally been different.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gained a lot of appreciation from Penny to appreciation and patience that maybe I can just listen and learn from someone and not have the answer, not want to turn it into revenue, not have it as a reciprocal. It has to be reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
And so her pursuit of knowledge, information has helped me in my understanding of what knowledge is.
Mm-hmm.
It's ever fleeting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to say thank you, Penny, and I do appreciate it. Love you.
Right. What's interesting about this is, so what I'm going to do is one of our regular, when Tommy and I are together and some things are profound, I'll say, let's slow down the camera so that we can take another look at it. So we only have 2 data points here, relationships. But what I'm hearing, and I would say that my belief, my religious belief is that God has instructed us to find people that we're equally yoked with. And so I would say that as I listen to you and Judy, and as Tommy and I have, conversed for decades, I would say that there's a great part of us that's equally yoked. In other words, what you all have said this morning is that your knowledge and your greatest value is sort of information for improving relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So Tommy and I are using information to go make money and maybe fix the world, but as a way, we're always using, it's tactical why we get information. And you all you sometimes have to use it that way, but you are not only making the world better in the relationships around you, but you're also making us better.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt about it that when I grew up in a family of debaters. That's what we did. And we would literally, it was all competitive, and when I met Judy, I was thinking, hey, she's brilliant. This is going to be some good arguments. And right away in that first year, she drugged me off to EMI. Like, I said, because she'd be winning in an argument, then I'd go to sarcasm or over talking her. And then she might bust down tears. I'm like, hey, that's not how they play the game. She said, that's because you come from a dysfunctional family, huh? So then she drugged me off to EMI to get me fixed. And she's been tweaking on me for 30-something years, 34 years or something like that. And I'm grateful that God blessed me with something that I didn't know that was going to be a key ingredient. And I know Tommy feels the same way. Here's the question that I have for you, Judy, is that I've wanted to be a father, a parent since I was a kid. I knew that I wanted to have lots of kids, and we do, but I know I've seen you sort of look at that even in a different way than I have. I remember when you were pregnant, I think with Jillian, and I'd be taking you to work downtown at Procter & Gamble, and you'd be literally 7 months pregnant, you'd be killed over like this, and then you get out the car and start that Procter walk, and then I think you get behind your door and then fall apart again. But the question that I'd like you all to consider is, what does it mean to effectively balance your home life, your work life? Has that evolved over time? What are your thoughts about that? Because I know we think about that differently. And there are different obligations. This is the last thing I'll say. That I remember when I used to, my claim to fame with Jillian being my daughter was that I could do her hair. I could do her hair sometimes better than Judy. And I'd slick over the little things, pick the little barrettes. And then if I took her to the mall by myself, oh man, everybody in the mall was talking, oh, you're this, and they standing ovation. Everybody be clapping like, he's the father. He's rolling his daughter around, Judy never got that. So we were getting extra credit for doing little things. And you all are literally carrying the weights on both sides. Judy, what are your thoughts about effectively balancing home life, work life, those kind of things?
Well, for me, the role model there, I know, was my mother, who was a school teacher my entire life. And back when I was growing up in the 70s, it was one of the few working moms. I remember when I had that revelation in high school when they were talking about something. And they were like, raise your hand if your mom worked. And there were like only 3 or 4 of us in my class that raised our hands. And it was like, what do your parents do all day? I mean, I remember thinking. So my mother was very, very dedicated and disciplined person. And so she would get up before us. She had a hot breakfast for me every morning before I would go to the bus. And I know now, then she would rush around and get herself ready to go to school. I used to come home from school only 30 or 45 minutes before her. But as soon as she came home, it was changing clothes and cooking dinner, and everything was from scratch. I wish I had some of those meals now, but she was just extremely intentional and had a schedule, and we didn't think about it, but she compartmentalized her life so that we could be first. And even for my parents with modest income to have college educated all of us without student loans, 3 children, because they put that as a priority. She took us to Europe because exposing us to other cultures and other things was important to her. And I think, I couldn't even afford to do that with my middle class income with all of my children when they were young. It's like, how did she do that? But she was very frugal. And they planned for what was important and what they wanted to do. And so in some ways, I've tried to never think that I can do it all. I work in seasons. And when my children were very small, that was the most important thing to me, although I wanted my career to grow primarily just for income purposes. But I wanted to focus and dedicate as much of my life and time as I could to my children. And after 10 years at P&G, joining Integrity to work, I was able to do that on a very flexible basis so that I could be primarily at home. I could schedule my life around their school activities and homework and still connecting with them. I'm a night owl, so I can do work at night, work on proposals at night, etc. And then when my youngest, a lot of my children had educational challenges where I had to be the primary tutor and coach. And when my youngest started college, I suddenly found myself with a lot more time. And was able then, even though for my friends, it's like, this is the time to be ramping down. But for the way I organize my life, it's like, well, now I have the time. Now I can go to certifications. Now I can, I had a stint teaching at UC. Now I think I might want to go back to corporate, actually, which I have done. So for me, it's just been managing the seasons of my life by putting a priority on family. And when there are spaces and there has been more time, now I feel like God's redeemed the time for me and I'm able to jump back out there and serve in a capacity like I never missed a beat during the years that I left.
Before we transition to Penny, I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Judy, talk about what you would think about when I first started in business. You were working at Procter & Gamble, and I'd be sleeping in the morning.
Yeah, I was not happy. Let's roll it back. Let's roll it back a couple years. How about I was pregnant with our first child, sitting in my office one day, and he calls me on the phone and says, I just quit my job. I was like, you what?
Right, so much for the planet.
You mean you're thinking about
decision making?
no, I quit my job. I'm going to go full time into business for myself. And I was like 7 months pregnant. And I had just told them I was going to take a year off. I was like,
Ooh.
what? So yeah, there's been challenges in your life. I will definitely say that. And it just rubs you the wrong way when you're 7, 8 months pregnant, dragging yourself in, and Mr. Entrepreneur is like, "Oh, I think I'll have breakfast before I."
Judy, it sounds like you remember the month, week, day, and hour.
I didn't remember it happened like that. It was
I actually burst into tears, and my boss came over from next door, like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Eric quit his job." She was like, "Well, he seems very ambitious. I'm sure his business is gonna really take off."
And Eric is on the other side, running outside.
and rolling up under the blanket when I wasn't drinking it. I was in the blankets a lot, boy. But Penny, why don't we just sort of transition to you and talking about sort of this balance of work, family, those things. How have you navigated thinking about that and trying to, find the right balance in that?
So I've lived a life of balance, having to balance. I see it as juggling, keeping all the balls in the air. Each ball is more important than the other ball, or less important. They're all equal. So I have to maintain and manage all of the balls in the air. That's just an analogy. I have always been able to do that. I don't know why. Like Judy, like you, my mom woke up. She had this schedule. Before we went to bed at night, everyone got their clothes ready for school the next day, because she wasn't going to have you getting up, scrambling around, trying to figure out what you're wearing, everybody arguing and crying because you got my socks, no. She made us plan everything the night before. She had 5 girls. She had to get up and do our hair every morning. And fix us a hot breakfast. It was always oatmeal, cream of wheat, grits, eggs, bacon. She made, because she was from the South, she just made big breakfasts. And she showed me, I watched her, how she managed 6 kids, 6. A husband who didn't do anything in the house. She managed all of that. How did she do it? How did she do it and stayed beautiful, kept a smile on her face and warmth in her heart for any and everyone that I watched her. I emulated her, wanted to be just like her when I grew up. It wasn't about a job. My mother worked as a nurse's assistant at Christ Hospital for some 22 years. Then she worked at, what's it called? I just lost it.
We do that often too.
Yeah.
We do. And you hate it because you know it's the most important thing he's about to say.
But neither of my parents were college educated, neither of them, but they insisted that you got your education. Never that I went to college, though. My mother was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And at that time, they didn't believe that, we should pursue higher education. So that's what was taught to her. But I couldn't help myself. I needed to know more. I needed to branch out. And today, what I do, and I don't know, I might drive Tommy crazy sometimes, but I'm particular about things being in a particular way because it keeps me copacetic. When things are not, his shoes are at the door. Now I don't get upset about it anymore. He said, pick your battles. So I look down at them shoes and I look at Tommy.
You just give me a look now, huh?
He said, all right, I'll get him. But little things will throw me off with regards to how I manage my home, with regards to how I manage school, how I manage work. And doing all of them is success to me at the end of the day. when I have spent the entire day able to get all the laundry done, clean the house, go to work, go to school, when I have managed that at the end of the day, that's like was a successful day today. And that's what I build it on. I don't know. It's natural for me.
Yeah.
To manage my life that way. Tommy is the total opposite. He's the total opposite. And
Wait a minute.
learning, oh yeah. Yes. He actually operates well in his chaos.
Yeah.
He operates well in that. I mean, them all-nighters, he'd be like, Penny, you can you help me? I'm saying, oh no, my dear, it's after 10. I'm going to bed. But he's able to manage his life that way. I can't. So we're different that way. I'm proactive, not reactive. I like to plan. I asked you earlier, Eric, you don't know where you're going to Mexico? You just going to Mexico? You just crossing the border?
Right. Hey, Cancun, I went here when I was in high school. So I don't know when the flights are. It's direct anything. I don't know. Judy got all that covered.
But I need to know so that I can plan. You know, Tommy, today's our 11th anniversary.
Yes, congratulations.
Tommy text me, say, you want to go out to dinner? I'm like, yeah. I said, where are we going?
Right.
You're just going out to eat
The
with
element
me.
of surprise is gone.
Right.
Oh, and I'm so sorry, Tommy. He tried surprising me 2 times now. Woo. And both times I jacked it up. I'm sorry.
That's happened to me on multiple occasions. I just gave up. I had so many bad gifts. We'll have to do a whole nother episode on bad gifts given. I mean, really, I had never really dated anybody in my life until I got to Judy. Oh, my goodness. She had her whole team waiting for the first set of gifts that I sent her when we got married. The whole crowd was there waiting to see what Eric had sent. It was a big bowl. I think I sent her a ham with some water, like a water ham. Some
canned ham. It was a big basket, and they used to call you down at P&G to go downstairs and pick it up. So this giant basket with cellophane, and everyone's like, "Oh, let me see what the newlywed got
and
for
I've been listening for 6 months
for her anniversary." And I come in, and everyone's standing there, and it's a canned ham, and I'm like, "What?" Then an apron.
This is what to cook for. She said she wanted to cook for, so I got an apron.
And then some diet candy that looks like mini hamburgers.
She said she wanted to lose weight. I was listening. I was listening, Penny. I was big smart. I was waiting by the phone. She gonna call me like, you got everything right. I never got that phone call. And then I saw this disastrous look on her face when I finally saw her at the end of the day. Like,
hey, Roger, what Roger said?
Him and a job.
Yeah.
Hey, Judy had called you, Eric, and said, wait, baby, wait till I get home. And you heard that completely different.
Right. I was like, oh man,
it was really good night tonight. It was really
gonna be good night tonight. I get home. Good night tonight. I got it all right. I was really think I got it all right. I didn't know actually till years later. I think she was traumatized. So I didn't even know the full effect till a few years later that she told me the whole crowd was there and they were just horrified. And then she was like the birthday girl. That was a disaster. I didn't know it. I didn't think about it. I was happy. I was like, ooh, I thought that I sent the gift. I said, hey, I got that covered. Shoot, I remember. I remember the anniversary.
Now I give him a list. Like, get me something off of this list.
So how do you feel about that, Eric? How do you feel about being given a list?
Oh, it's awesome. I'm like, why didn't we do this 20 years ago? Because I was trying to prove my love through getting the right gift. And so I was really listening. You know, she needed a blouse. Okay. She needs a lightweight jacket, some gym shoes. I mean, I'm listening to all these things and buying bad gifts from discount stores. Didn't know. But as soon as I go to a jewelry store and get like a $500,000 certificate, oh man, that took
You said a $500,000.
500 to 1,000. Yeah, that would get me a social media post if I did that. Now, I have not been the greatest gift giver, but my love has always been there. Yes.
And I go ahead, Penny.
So gift giving, how we're different in gift giving, Tommy and I. And different and the same. Because I'll get for Tommy what I think he needs.
Okay.
Tommy will give to me what he wants me to have.
Okay.
Not necessarily what I want.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
Which is where we need to have conversation. Crucial conversation.
Oh, we got about 10 minutes left. Yeah, we're right. He told me he'd give me the bat signal. He said, "Eric, we're gonna come at a point in the interview."
No, seriously, because it's all about in our understanding of what we heard, what we thought we heard. So Eric, you say you thought you heard her say she wanted to lose some weight.
Yeah.
So you're gonna facilitate a gift to do that. Right. No, that conversation is in passing. That wasn't her telling you she wanted you to somehow fix that.
20 years took me to learn that one. I mean, it was bad gifts galore.
I don't know. We just, if we just talk to one another.
Right. Now, I don't need gifts. So I came up in a family that all we ever got was Neapolitan ice cream and a bigger slice of cake. So when my birthday comes, don't need anything. Christmas, I tell everybody save their money because you can't really buy for me anyway. I'm kind of picky, but I don't need anything. And if I do, I can get it for myself. Now, it's nice when somebody remembers that, but I don't really care. But that isn't the same standard that you have to apply to somebody else. I think that I've learned that you have to not only listen, but have conversations. I thought that it took the punch out. Like if I talk to you about it and then it wasn't as valuable because I hadn't done it from the heart. Everything for me was do it from the heart, genuine something from the heart, even with apologizing. That's another story too. That, I feel like an apology don't mean anything unless it comes from the heart. She agrees with that, but I can't sometimes get it from the heart. So, it's hard for me to give,
Yeah, the gift thing is interesting. In another conversation, part 2, part 3, part 4, I've offered up gifts, and I thought I've listened as well. I thought I did. Now I'm in this conversation, obviously, I did not listen clearly, but I heard Penny have a request, a need, and I would take time and get that gift, and I present that gift and realize that the gift is not wrapped.
Oh, yeah. So I fall down.
Yeah, I'm giving a raw kind of naked gift.
Okay.
Right.
That's
and it took away from the unveiling.
Right.
So sometimes it's the packaging.
Right. Love that went into each crease.
Yes.
We learned it. We learned it right on the spot.
Hey, we want to go back to the question from Lydia.
Yeah,
let's go back there.
I thought so.
Yeah, this is a question from our community, and thank you, community, this morning for chiming in. For those who are joining late, you have Judy Ellis, who's the better half of Eric Ellis, and you have Penny Monday, who's the better half of Tommy Lewis. And so they're here telling us what to do.
Right.
Nothing unusual.
Here's
the question. What's the key of a successful marriage? What would you say is your secret? Successful marriage.
So for me,
and still being together. Yeah. That's the success of it. That's talking about all the quality of the marriage.
For me, have you guys have seen the diagram of what good communication actually looks like, where you have a sender, a receiver, you have oh, I just lost what's in the middle before. No, it's the sender, there's something in the middle, and then there's the receiver.
There's a filter that's
Yes.
The message.
So if you're able to conquer how you send and how it's filtered and the receiver gets it the way you sent it, not just communication, because people say, well, if you learn how to communicate, no, it's more than that. It's deeper than that. It's more convoluted than just knowing how to speak to one another or speaking to one another with love. You still have to speak to them in the where they can understand what you're saying. And then even when with Tommy and I, even when I think that I have been clear in my speech to him, I still find that he didn't understand what I meant, because he'll go back and still do something that I've asked him not to do, because he simply didn't, not because he doesn't love me or because he's just doing something against me, but it was simply because he didn't understand what I meant. So then I have to go back and try and explain it again to where he understands me. And, you know, people say, well, don't ask me to repeat what you said. I heard you. No, it's important that you repeat what you understood.
Judy's thing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what you heard, but what you understood, so that we can do this. It's no secret. What would you say is your secret? It's not a secret. It's what we all do every day. It's communicating fully, not just talking. And then for me, it's always remembering the juvenile essence of our relationship. And that's the love we feel for one another. You know, we get heated and hot and mad and upset. But why are we together? It's because we, in essence, love one another. So let's figure out what we need to do to get back on track.
Yeah, and before we go to Judy, I would say that I have learned exactly what Penny is talking about, specifically for Penny, where when she's telling me something she needs, it's the presentation, the gift of that feedback. It's not always beautifully wrapped. In Penny, it's direct. She knows exactly what she needs from me and tells it, gifts it. I receive it two ways. One, I receive it. Thank you for the gift to allow me to help you. And if I help you, I help us. That's one. The other is, I don't always know how to do what she needs to be done. I don't always know. So I'm learning something new real time. And I've learned myself to say, you know, I get to this ego and pride to say, you know, hey, I don't know how to do what you're asking. I'm willing to learn, be patient, but right now, because you've given me the feedback today, I know I can't change tomorrow.
I got to process that for a while.
So what I've learned with her, when she comes back, doubles back, triples back with me, sometimes it's a little more direct, and I receive it like, oh, shoot, you know what I'm saying? Right. And then I land on the fundamental value and principle of love, because Penny reminds me that she loves me. Okay. Right? Because sometimes I lose that, because the attacks, as I receive them, which they're not, defensiveness, right? It's really just, here's what I want, here's what I need. Right. And I receive like, oh, what's going on with the head? Right. Because I don't know how to defend myself. I don't know how to do it. And so in learning that, as we said, the sender, then there's the message going through a filter, and the receiver. I focus on the message now, because the sender, Penny, it's love, it's marriage, we're going to be okay. But she's giving me a message, and I can't overreact on the message. I'm not going to kill the messenger, right? But I'm like, man, what is she telling me, right? because right now I'm thinking about that proposal I got to get out, and I'm trying to manage through my mind. I'm here, but I'm not, because the mortgage is due, and I gotta be present. At the end of the day, I gotta be present, receive the message, change my thinking, change my behavior, and we're good. Penny has really trained me to move my shoes from the front porch. Yes,
Right.
good job, Penny.
Judy, your response.
Judy, I don't know about you, but how do you, oh, I'm sorry, answer the question. And then
Right.
you and I can talk about, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would just say I really love looking at people that have done this successfully, like empirically. I love John Gottman. If you're looking for principles of a successful marriage, one of the books, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work. There's another that talks about 3 C's. We've talked about communication, but commitment is another one of those C's, and compromise is another one. It's really being willing to keep growing is what I talk to my daughter about a lot, because just coming in as you are and saying, this is how I am and this is just me, does not work. I don't care who you are. It doesn't work. So having the commitment is first. And, 1 Peter 3, although it says for husbands, says live with your wives in an understanding way. I think learning to kind of get a map of your partner and what's important to them and what's important to you, and that you're always developing that mental map of what they care about, how they like to be communicated with, what things are important, that the focus isn't just selfishly on you and what you want to do, but that have that outward focus on the other person. And as I said, that compromise, forgiveness, being willing to not walk in pride, which I can get in. I will say he can get in it too, where you're just stubborn, like I'm right on this issue and I'm not going to bend. There's 10,000 things in a day that you can be irritated about. And it's learning to put the focus on those things that are most important. I've had to give up the shoe and the things in the right place thing, because with everybody having ADD, it's just, you would be all day having a stroke over things. But what's important to you, and if that's the thing that's really important to you, we'll focus on that. If this is the thing that's important to him, try to focus on that. So
I'll tell you that what's interesting, and Tommy, I'll kind of react to this, and we'll go over time. We'll just tell our community, because we got our wives here. We don't know when we'll get y'all back. But I would say that for me, number one, I had never been in a relationship before Judy, not a real meaningful relationship. So I didn't really know anything about compromises and all of those things. When Judy asked that we go to the EMI communication class, after that retreat weekend, I thought that was the dumbest thing that I had ever heard. This notion of empathic listening and all of that, trying to get the message and the feeling, that just seemed to me like a waste of time. Like they just said it. I already heard you. Why do I have to say it back to you? Why do I have to say your feelings? And so all of that seemed like an exercise in futility. But what I've learned over these decades is that so often, because of my ADHD in part, because of my family dynamics growing up, Judy will say something and I literally did not hear all that she said. I'm reacting to her time talking, but what my brain interpreted that as being said. And it's been amazing to me to learn over the years that process is so critical that, that there's just a lot that you miss. But I'm also grateful to have a wife who has given me grace and had patience with me over the years, and us ultimately deciding that there's some battles that we don't necessarily need to keep fighting. I think that the other thing that's necessary is for each person, not all at the same time, to have a willingness to keep growing, even if that growing process is slow.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's tough for people like Tommy and I, this was tough for me when I got married, is that in the world of people who didn't have to live with me, I was celebrated oftentimes. Mm-hmm. So I was in a world that was saying, woo, hey, you are the greatest, you are the funniest, who in the world cannot love you? And then you had to come home and have Judy clear her throat. We need to talk. Oh, Lord. Yeah. We had to talk. We got to talk some more. And so really coming down off of that foolish plastic runner's high from the plastic compliments of a world that doesn't know you. Someone who God has created to help improve who you are. You know that. And I think that, it's good for a woman to find a man that is competitive and wants to win. Because if he wants to win in the world, and that translates at all to his relationship, then you got something that you can work with. Because he's going to fail a lot, because, we just had a lot of losses in our lives. But I am still listening, still trying to gain Judy's approval of being a good husband. And there are some areas that I still got a long way to go in.
Yeah. This is exciting. I want to pivot again. We're going to go extra time, community. I think that there's a reason why we are with who we are with.
That's right.
Right. And so with that, I want to pivot to what do we like? What do we laugh about?
That's good.
What is that connection? And I'll start with Penny, my wife. I love traveling with Penny. It is one of the most exciting times that I have in my whole life. It's not necessarily the preparation, because, getting flights and hotels and car rentals and all that stuff, that's the tactical administrative stuff. But for me, the excitement that she has in the morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock, when we have to make it to the airport and leave at 6 o'clock, and us kind of doing the same thing all the time. I do not drink coffee. She has to have coffee. And so we're going to get some coffee. I don't even eat breakfast much. She needs to have breakfast. So I'll get the breakfast, etc. And then we're flowing. People watching, walking, sitting, right? I enjoy looking at my wife. I really do. I am attracted to her. Mm-hmm. If it was up to me, I would hit on her every day. Right?
Okay.
Look, I would.
Anniversary speech.
Yeah, I would walk past her in the hallway. Hey, what's happening? She's like, holla at your boy. It's me, Penny. Oh, shoot. I didn't know who you was. I just thought you was some beautiful lady I was just trying to shoot game with. But at the end of the day, traveling, going around, experiencing something new is great. Finally, with the travel, I've had a great opportunity to travel the world, most of it by myself, right? I was traveling for business. And many times traveling on business, I don't really get to see the town, right? Airport, cab, hotel, conference room. Mm-hmm. Penny trusts me in our travel. She just follows me. And I enjoy that. Like, I got it, because I'm not afraid to talk to anyone when I want to. Right. And I'm not afraid to talk close to people. You with me? I still got that in me.
Right.
So, when we go to certain places and they try to push things on you, I'm there like, hey.
Got this, bro.
Yep.
We said no.
We said no. Let's go. Those story, and finally, and Penny will tell you, and I'll get off my soapbox here. I get excited when we travel and I want to do things, but I haven't always thought it out clearly. So we've been in some particular situations that I've looked at my wife and she's like, "Are we safe?" And I'm like, "I think." We have some stories about getting on catamarans, taking sailboats, just all kinds of stuff. Like, man, all of those are stories and deeply inside stories, which generate humor when we are triggered by that event. So we can be amongst the crowd, see an event, it triggers that we have a deep inside story about it, and we start to laugh. And we start to laugh. We get into giddiness, etc. Other folks like, you all are happy. You don't know that that's from 8, 10, 15 years ago. So I wanted to share that story. That's what makes me laugh and smile with my wife constantly.
Right. And I'll throw in, did we lose Judy? But I'll talk about her anyway, and in this way. And if she didn't come back, then we'll be signing off here shortly. But I would say that there are a number of things that I love about Judy. I'd say one of the things that I learned from Judy, because I never really saw this growing up, was vulnerability. I never really saw that. And when Judy would sort of make herself vulnerable and tell me about ways that she was feeling and sharing some of her insecurities, I was like, wow, she trusts me enough to say that. I don't know how to do that, because all I ever learned was go get it, fight it out, come back a winner. If you get knocked down, get up, keep swinging. I didn't learn anything about how to say I'm sad, I'm concerned. I didn't learn any of that language. And the other thing that I have with Judy is she's a wonderful barometer for my pride and self-esteem. In other words, she beats down the pride from a value standpoint. Like, I know you've been getting celebrated for a long time, so let me remind you not to find yourself reading the press about yourself in ways that are not helpful for you. So she does that piece for me. But the other piece that she does is she knows when she needs to tell me that you're everything you need to be. Because, I've said this before, that women will use the term more often, imposter syndrome. Men won't ever use that term, but will feel that way. And when Judy sees me feeling that way, she will tell me, that's when she'll build me up and say, hey, you're everything you need to be to do this. And so I'm grateful for that. But I'm also grateful for the pride check, because I never want to be walking around saying things about myself that make me look as though I believe the press about myself, because I know I have so many shortcomings and so much ground to still cover. The last thing I would say, I do know that Judy loves me. She laughs at my jokes. I think that's one of the greatest things. And I said that I wanted to be a father when I was a kid. I did not know that one of the highest priorities on my list would be a person to be a great mother to my children. And see her literally be Grand Central Station. I mean, when people blowing her phone up every day, all day and night. I mean, I looked at one time, one is a boyfriend or something, because 4 a.m. I mean, you get a call, but that's one of the kids feeling like she just open access, like ATM, 24/7. They just blowing her phone up. But I'm so grateful that they can talk to her about anything, including me. And I'm grateful that they have somebody to go to do a sanity check, and then she'll feed some of that stuff back to me so that I might be able to continue to grow.
That's excellent.
I love it. I love it. And
Right.
I appreciate that too. I appreciate, and Judy, I have a couple questions I'd like to ask you, maybe offline, but Tommy, for me, feels me. You're my other half, actually more than half. I have been able to, first time in my life, express to you my vulnerabilities. I've been able to give to you something that I was not able to articulate in any of my other relationships. And because I trusted you to hold it dear and to care for it. And that's my heart. I trusted you. I still trust you to do that. And you, albeit in the beginning, you looked confused, like, oh Lord.
We often have that look.
She just gave me something that I might mess up. You held it. We have a joke, and the laughs, oh my God, you talk about funny. That's a funny boy. We have a thing now where I will yell. I can be downstairs. I'll say, security. I grew up in a family that I didn't feel secure in my father's love. And it was translating in my adulthood where I didn't feel like someone could care for me properly. And I told Tommy that. And now I can yell security and he'll come running and give me a big hug, real warm, tight hug to make me feel secure. And it's just the greatest, something so small that might seem so small to someone. It is the biggest thing to me. It feels me. Tommy's intellect feels me. I love it that he's smart. I love it that he's intuitive and want to continue to grow mentally and emotionally. And I love that. You don't find it in men because you just said it. Men aren't taught to be that way. And now what you're having to deal with is a woman who was taught to be that way and have no problem sharing with you how she feels. You're learning how to do that. And I love it that you want to. That's everything. Not just that you're listening to me, but that you want to listen to me, that I love. I love it, Tommy, that you want to please me. You want to make me happy. If you can make someone happy, you want to do that. And I am so thankful to finally in my life to have gotten this gift that I call you to love me. And I love you to pieces. To pieces. But I got some work for you to do when you get home.
Don't I know it?
Judy, he just stated that you talked to him about how do you express his need to check his pride. So he talked about the plastic accolades that he gets, and it builds him up. It makes him feel great. Tommy comes home with that. And I don't want to burst the bubble because he's full of himself. But I need him to come back down to earth, because down here on earth, we have to deal with what is actually going on in our house. So not to hurt him, because I don't want to. You ever see people play double dutch and you're waiting to be able to get in to say it? I want to say, Tommy, that's enough. We're here now. I need you to hear what I'm saying. I need you to understand where our relationship is, what we're doing right now, what we need in this relationship. And I have to pick. There's little bitty windows of moments that maybe I can talk to him about the crucial conversations. So that's why he feels like I'm attacking him, because I need to have these conversations. But I don't want him to feel like he's being attacked. I want him to just feel like, albeit I'm a fan of yours, that's out there. So what is the words that come out of your mouth that make him where you don't hurt him?
And I don't always get that right, Penny. And I think it's so important to emphasize, because I was talking with my daughter about that. She's getting new revelations about kind of relational dynamics. It's like men are actually kind of fragile. I'm like, she's thinking about her brothers and now looking at men. And I'm like, yeah, they really are. There's a lot on them. And especially Black men have a lot of extra battles that they are fighting in this world that can, you know, pull away at their self-esteem. And so my goal is never to do that. But it's, as you said, it's finding those moments when you can add a dose of reality into the situation. And I'd say 90% of the time it's keeping things to myself and talking to God about them. I remember early in my life, I thought every improvement thing I thought I needed to share, which can feel like it's tearing a person down. And because our brains glom on the way we're designed, we remember and focus on negative information. The way our brains are wired more than we do positive. And it's like 5 to 7 more positive things for every constructive
negative
criticism that you might add. But being really tentative and not, it's not even talking about the same issue. Like if he gives a presentation and, you know, he gets a standing O and is coming back on a high, I'm not going to then at that moment, when the next time I see him, go, you know what, you didn't mention your services, you didn't talk about the, you know, that's not the time to do it. But waiting for when there is a time and being really tentative. And something that we learned, and he reminds me a lot. Are you open to receiving feedback about this particular thing? And if the person says no, then shut up because you may know it. You know, the people close to them may know it. God may even want them to know it, but they're not open to receive it right now. And so it's waiting until they give you that key that, yes, I would like to receive your feedback. And then using the sandwich, even though all of us know about it. You know when you're getting the good stuff first.
Watch out. Watch out. It
still works. Even though you know it, it still works. It's like, you know, you did a really great job with your energy, the way you connected with the audience. Your slide where it was great. And then, you know, something you might want to think about is being a little more interactive and letting other people ask you some questions, not having it all be them sitting and watching, and then end it again with, but overall, that was an A-, because our brains are going to focus on the minus. You don't have to say it was a C+. You could just say A-, and the minus sticks in the brain like, oh, I wanted an A+, or and it's like, yeah, but I mean, that's just an example, but and pick, like I said, literally picking your battles, the important things, you left the, you know, cap off the toothpaste, you left for us, because like I said, ADD is just organized chaos. All those things is, I mean, unless it's something super important, like for me, the toilet seat, because at night, I but I
want to fall in.
Yeah. But other things that's going, you know what, out of the mountain of things in life, is this really critical feedback that even needs to be shared? Or do I really trust that there is a Heavenly Father who hears me, and that there's other conduits that can get information to him besides me? Because I was prideful in my early Christian life, especially thinking I need to tell you everything. And God's like, can you back up and let the circumstances teach him some things? Let a counselor teach him some things. Let a friend teach him some things. Let the lack of money on this, you know, idea that's not really viable teach him some things, versus your mouth being the one that's always trying to do it. So being tentative, waiting for the right moment, and then using those principles that we've all learned, but it's hard to put in sometimes in practice with someone you're really spending a lot of time with.
Let me say, we'll let you all close with a question that you all have for either of us or each other, and then we will wrap up our session. And thank you for coming, and we'll have to have you back.
I don't necessarily have a question. What I do have, though, and this is an ask of Tommy, is that perhaps you do some research on menopause and how it affects a woman.
That's a double assignment then.
Yep.
And only because it is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing changes in myself, which in turn would change our relationship. So I'm wanting us to be well versed, as when you are going to meet a client and you want to give them the best service you can give them, you study them, you do your research so that you come well advised. That's something I would ask that you do for us. Continue to be the loving and funny husband that I know and love. Continue to be the great father that you are to your son, amidst all of the negative things that are all around you. I love that. I really do, because our children don't have a number, or I won't even say a majority, because we got some great Black fathers. I'm sorry. I've seen some great fathers, Black fathers. So I won't say the majority. I'll say there's a number of kids out here who don't have fathers that love them. And you do. And I love you for that. And you come on home, get some sugar.
Can't hear you.
I'll make a mention about this before Judy. Judy has just sort of been one of the authors of a book that is powerful for Black professionals. Judy, why don't you just...
Yeah, your sound's going in and out. I think it's time to end. But I was blessed to be a co-author in a book, Triumph in the Trenches. Really pleased to do that, navigating success for Black professionals. And through relationships I made through LinkedIn, actually, Elizabeth Leba, who's a LinkedIn top voice and author, put together an anthology for many of us in the corporate space, talking about the unique challenges that Black professionals face. And it's been really timely. My daughter and some of her friends in the last few weeks have said, it can be very isolating. And I work in a global organization now that's headquartered in the UK. Very different dynamic being a Black person. Eric overheard a conversation at 7 p.m. when my big boss called me out of the blue just on Friday. Different dynamic. And often you think you're isolated, or shame and other things have people hiding what their experiences are like. And in this anthology, 22 co-authors and I each share a little bit of a perspective of what's happened in their personal experience working in corporate spaces. And what my daughter's friend Sherna shared last week was, I just am happy to know that this isn't just happening to me. Like, I thought it was me. And it's like, no, this is a system that you've entered in. And what's happening to you from a difficulty and challenges standpoint is happening to your brothers and sister colleagues around the globe. And there's ways to navigate it if you want to. Now, some people just go, this is not for me. I just don't have the fortitude, patience, interest in doing all of this. Like Penny's saying, I'm not the one. And I can do it for a season or two. I did it for 10 years and now have been back in it for the last 3. But part of what I'm hearing is it's just cathartic for people to see that I'm not alone and this is not some weird thing happening to me, that all these different dynamics, workplace mobbing, a term I hadn't heard of, like when one person picks a story about an individual and then everyone else just kind of gloms on and agrees and it's all fabricated. That woman in the book talks about her experience of that. I talk about some of the more poignant stories I've seen in doing consulting work, being in focus groups and interviews with people where it's almost like therapy, where it's like, finally, I can tell someone the truth about what I'm experiencing. I mean, it's just mind blowing. But also, how do you navigate through it if that's what you want to do? And for some people, how do I navigate my way out if that's what you want to do? So, thanks for asking about that.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Well, we are at the end of our now hour and a half, and that just blew by. And we want to thank you all for loving us, for joining us for this very quick show. Tommy, you and I talk about how fast they go sometimes when we're together, but they've blown by. And I now get a chance to understand more about Tommy, Penny, by what you've shared about him today. And the same with Tommy and Judy. And our community has gotten a window into what supercharges and powers our lives. Tommy, you want to close this out?
I would like to say again, thank you to Judy Ellis, mother, author, woman, and just energy, for being patient with my friend and my brother, Eric Ellis, over the last 30 plus years. I actually remember the inroads when you all met and Eric eventually transitioned. I did not know that he just called it quits. That was new. But again, and then with my wife, Penny, I love you and thank you. I would say that some of the most fun time we had when we had the Ellises over.
Oh my God. Oh, I still laugh. Eric, you said that salad looks good, but I'm not going to eat it because I have it all over the place. And Judy be like, I can't take you nowhere. I can't.
Right. I wanted to. I'm going to make a mess. Throw it all on the carpet and everything. I don't know how to eat no other way. Aggressive.
That's what this is about. Right, absolutely. And so community, please enjoy your day. Again, this is not the end of the conversation. Continue it throughout the week. And we look forward to seeing you next week on another installment of Diversity Conversations. Take care.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.